Hi, Tracy here with BibleJournalingMinistries.com, and today I'm going to show you an alternative to the napkin technique. The napkin technique is basically when you use these really pretty napkins that you find in the store. They can be anywhere between $1 for, like, say 16 of these versus all the way up to $4 or $5 for a pack of something as pretty as this. And what I have found is that these are really beautiful, but sometimes I can't find the designs that I want. And I found this tutorial on how to do the napkin technique a while back, and I couldn't find the napkin that they were using. I really loved it, and I just couldn't get my hands on it. So I decided to create something very similar to the napkin. It's not exactly like it, so you'll have to find the napkin. If you know which napkin I'm talking about, you're going to have to find that one yourself. But this is pretty much inspired by that napkin. So I've created 5 different printables for you. They're all the same. They have the same words on them where it has glory, God, He is risen, faith, Jesus. And I've added some of these really pretty crosses and some little white speckles as well in there on a background of watercolor paper. And these are digital printouts that you can purchase on our website, and I will link to that for you. And if you're in this tutorial, you probably already have them, but if you don't, I will link that for you. So you've got different colors, you know, light colors, all watercolor backgrounds. And this is one of my favorites, and this is my favorite. Now these ones are printed on cardstock, but you can also print them on standard paper. This is just a regular printer paper. And then I've also printed it on tissue paper. So this is basically tissue paper that you buy to give away for gifts. So you would you know, basically put this in a gift bag is what you would do. And you could get a whole big roll of this or a pack of these tissue papers at the dollar store, and you can make so many napkins for basically cheaper than you can buy a napkin. And at least this way I can get something really close to what I wanted in my original design. So I'm going to show you how to use these in your Bible, and I'll be using clear gesso. I'm going to be using matte medium. You don't need matte medium, but I'm going to be using it. You can just use clear gesso. It works just fine. I like the matte medium because the shine is not there. I'm going to use a really bad paintbrush because I'm going to be using it with the glue, and basically the glue will just damage, or the gesso or matte medium will damage your paintbrushes. So I use an old one. I'll also be using a makeup brush, and of course I'll be protecting my surface. I'll be using a heat gun just for this tutorial because I want to get that gesso to dry pretty clear pretty fast. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is cut my surface. And I'm going to apply 2 coats of clear gesso to both sides. I use a Ranger mat to protect the surface, and I'm using a Dina Wakley clear gesso in the 1 ounce container. I like the 1 ounce container because it is portable and I can carry it wherever I go. If you've seen any of my gesso commercials, videos, you'll see I'm using the same technique that I share in that video. And I'll go ahead and speed this up so you're not watching me gesso this Bible. That would take forever. So now you can see that the gesso is dry. Got a little bit of bubbling going on over here, but that should not make a difference at all, because what I'm going to do is lay the tissue paper on top of this just to see what it looks like, see if those words come through. And then I'm going to basically cut out a little portion of it for the margin as well. So let's go ahead and get started. The reason why I'm looking really closely at the papers that I have is because I wanted to try and see if it made a difference whether or not I'm printing on the shiny side of the tissue paper or the matte side of the tissue paper, or the not so shiny side of the tissue paper. So for this one here, I've printed on the shiny part. I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's much more shinier. And on this one, I've printed on the dull side, the matte side. You can see it's not as shiny. The reason why I did that is I want to see if I place it in the Bible, does one tend to act differently? Does it ink through maybe or not? So I wanted to give it a chance to test it out. So this is the shiny side and this is the dull side. What I'm going to do now is just apply gesso, and I want to create a nice kind of wet layer. I don't want it to be dry when I put the tissue paper down. So now I'm going to use my brush. And then I'm going to lay the tissue paper on it exactly how I want it. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. And now I'm just going to trim off what I don't need. Now, instead of trimming it with scissors, you can also rip it off. If you rip it off, just know that you might get a jagged edge. So like up here where I did a little bit of ripping, you can see it's starting to be a little jagged, and some people really like that. I like it, but I just wanted to let you know that that was possible. So the next thing you'll want to do is use the gesso on top if that's what you have. I'm going to use a matte medium because I don't want any kind of shine on it at all, and I know the matte medium won't give me the shine, but the gesso works just as well. I want to show you really briefly that because you are printing with ink, you will occasionally get color on your brush. So don't stick it back into your matte medium until you wipe it off, okay? Basically what happens is some of this matte medium, and Gesso will do the same thing, is it'll pick up any of that color from the ink printer. Because basically you're putting something over ink, and if the ink hasn't set very much, or well, especially when it comes to this tissue paper, that ink just kind of comes up sometimes. So it will also bleed through on your Bible, which is why we do the gessoing to begin with. So hopefully 2 layers is enough. I'm going to go ahead and let this dry, and then we'll see what it looks like when we're done. So you can see here now that the napkin technique worked really beautifully. I have the one side that I wanted to have where it was just the margin, and I could come back in here with some micron pens and really just kind of color over some of these, and I might go ahead and do that. And you can also add stickers as well as embellish on top of this. Again, the reason why I use the matte medium instead of the gesso is it's just a different texture. I find the gesso to be just a little more gritty, but I love the way it protects the page versus the matte medium, although you can use matte medium as a gesso as well. So both of these are very much similar. I just have found for protecting my page, I think the gesso creates a better barrier than the matte medium. I find I have to use more of the matte medium when I'm trying to use it as kind of a page prep gesso type item. So again, it's just preference. You can use either one of those or both of them like I did in this video, but I get a different texture with the matte medium versus the gesso. The matte's a very smooth surface, the gesso is a little more gritty. You can also see in the picture here or in the Bible that you can see the words still in the Bible even when you're using the napkin or the printable napkin, in our case, so the tissue paper, right through it. So you can still read the words if that's important to you. So the next step really is just to come through, maybe outline some of these words, and maybe even add some embellishment. So I'm going to go ahead and do that before we final the video. pretty pleased with how this turned out. I love that I did a little bit of black outlining just to kind of pop God and only Son here. I've done a little bit of outlining in the same color for some of these things like risen and hope and Jesus and faith and love. I use micron pens for that. They tend to not leak through as much or bleed through on the Bible. You can see that here when I was underlining the verse that I was reading in 1 Peter, none of it came through on the other side. So as I was reading 1 Peter chapter 1 verses 3 all the way through verses 9, I was just underlining everything that was speaking to me at the time, and nothing never came through, which is nice on the micron pen. So just to let you know, those are really great pens. But overall, I'm pleased with the result. I hope that you are too, and I'd love to see what you do with your printables here at BibleJournalingMinistries.com. Thanks so much, and you have a great day. Bye.